When we pulled away from that cruise ship, there was a little bit of cheering on the bus.
And it's home sweet home for a group of co-workers and their spouses, fresh off the Carnival ship that returned from a journey memorable, not for the good times, but the bad. Good evening, I'm Kelly Phillips. Thank you for joining us. What was supposed to be a 4-day trip from Galveston took twice as long. And instead of sharing pictures of joy and fun on board, passengers will show their families photographs and video of what many describe as unbearable conditions. Carnival ship Triumph pulled into a dock at Mobile, Alabama last night. A fire in the engine room last Sunday left the ship without power and little electricity. Passengers described toilets overflowing, a terrible stench and little food until the final few days. KFDM reporter Justin Hinton was up early this morning when a group of passengers arrived in Beaumont. He joins us now in the studio with their story. Justin?
Kelly, I spoke with a group of locals who made the trip from Mobile to Beaumont overnight. Dr. Peter Cass and his staff at Beaumont Family Eye Center arrived home on a charter bus at about 6:45 this morning. They said they were tired and ready to take showers, but some had to head to Galveston to pick up their vehicles. They had just enough energy to tell us how happy they were to be home.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lord.
Passengers on a bus, chartered for the staff of Beaumont Family Eye Care, rejoice. They're finally back on land after 5 days of less than ideal conditions.
It was very much like living in a porta-potty that had caught on fire.
Dr. Peter Cass heads the Family Eye Care Center on Delaware. He paid for the trip on the Carnival cruise liner as a getaway for 9 of his employees and some of their spouses. Sunday, everything changed.
We opened the door and we could smell what smelled like an electrical fire. And so I was ready to move quickly.
Once the initial impact of the engine room fire set in, all they could do was wait.
We had no power, and it got a little frustrating. And then when the toilet stopped working and the toilet started overflowing and people's rooms got flooded out and the food was cold and there was no hot food, it got pretty miserable fast.
It appeared the misery was about to end Wednesday. Tugboats to pull the cruise ship to shore, or so they thought.
They sent out 2 vessels to tow us in. One of them didn't even have strong enough rope. Every time they tied off and tried to tow us in, it broke.
Finally, last night, the local group and the other 4,000 passengers and crew members docked in Mobile, Alabama.
When my son saw me, he jumped the barricade and ran. And I don't know that I've ever been so happy to see him break the rules.
Right. So. For all of their troubles, the passengers are getting their trip comped by Carnival. $500 and, oh yeah, another cruise.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be cashing in my coupons for the free cruise. The $500 isn't nearly going to replace a week's worth of gross revenue for our practice. And so that's going to be a tough financial hurdle to overcome, but God's taken care of us in the past, and so I'm confident that won't be a problem in the future.
The Beaumont Family Eye Care's office hours have changed multiple times over the course of their extended vacation. Right here it says that they'll resume normal hours on Tuesday, February 12th. But of course they weren't back by then, so an update says that from February 12th through the 14th, they'd be open from 8:30 to 1:30. Again, more changes. But Dr. Cass says they hope to have everything back on schedule starting on Monday.
It's going to be kind of a crazy, nutty week next week, but we're just happy to be back, and I think everybody's going to be happy to get back into a routine.
Above all else, Dr. Cass says the crew was very helpful. He said they were living in the same conditions, if not worse, and tried to make it easy on the passengers. As far as management goes, it's a different story. Cass says several passengers booed the CEO when he stepped on board to apologize. He also said many people were talking about possibly suing the company. He said he'd speak with his lawyer and decide if he plans on doing the same. Reporting live in the studio, Justin Hinton, KFDM 6 News.
Many passengers described how they bonded with other families and helped each other deal with anxiety and anger. Some used singing as an outlet. Their selection, Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Libby Mitchell and her husband sent that video of passengers singing on the deck of the ship. Libby is a real estate agent in Beaumont. We spoke with them last night about the conditions on board.